There are several scriptures I'd like for us to be reading. But there is a thought I'd like to start with, which is not my thought, but something that Albert Einstein said. And it's a good way to start off when you're thinking about anger. He says, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we created them. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we created them. But as someone said to me, well, I didn't create that anger. Someone did something to me which made me angry. Oh, how many times have I heard that story? And I've been in the ministry for over 58 years, and I've sat and listened to all kinds of anger. And there are many, many ways that you can let go of anger. Many ways. In fact, just for fun, I was looking through all the variety of books about anger, and there were 7 steps to letting go of anger, 4 steps, 2 steps, and there was one book, 41 tips to letting go of anger. I didn't know there was so much material on it. All I know is what I've known from personal experience with the truth and dealing with anger, and within my own being, and with working with members in the church too who came for counseling. And you can't help but think about that. But I think the first thought is, remember, there are many ways to let go of anger. But when you're angry, it's tough to let go. And you know what I had to do with some people when it came to anger? Even though they weren't solving their problem, anger doesn't solve the problem. But we don't care. We're so angry. You know why? Because we want whatever was done to us or said to us or whatever it was, we want them to have their comeuppance. You look so innocent this morning. Like, moi? I have those thoughts? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. As someone who told me that was having a real battle with anger, they said, and a little voice in them said to them, would you rather be right or be healed? Would you rather be right or be healed? You see, that's what gives anger power, when we feel we are right and we were wronged unjustly. Right? Thank you. I think here I've already started, and I've got to read these scriptures. This is in Colossians, the 3rd chapter. And Paul is saying the same thing we're saying of letting go. He just uses a different word, that's all. Instead of the word letting go, he says in the 3rd chapter of Colossians, the 8th verse, now, put off, meaning let go. Put off from you all of these things: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, and foul conversation. And the 10th verse, and put on. Put off and put on. This is very important. And put on the new life, which is renewed in knowledge after the pattern in which it was originally created, where there is neither Jew nor Aramean, circumcision nor uncircumcision, Greek nor barbarian, slave nor free man, but Christ is all and in all men. Powerful? Powerful. Put off, put on. But you have to realize that you have that power to put off. But sometimes we want to keep it. We want to stay in it because we want a payoff. As long as you think there's a payoff, you'll keep it. The thing is, someone said to me, I'd like to be free of anger. Free of anger. But there is a scripture. Let me give you another one. This is found in Ephesians 4:26. 4:26. Be angry, but sin not. Be angry, but sin not. And let not the sun go down upon your anger. And do not give the devil a chance. Because by keeping the anger, you might do something which gets you into trouble. And one more, and that is in the Psalm which he is quoting, which Paul is quoting the Psalm. Psalm 4:4. Be angry and yet sin not. What are you supposed to do then? The next step. Be angry and sin not. Commune. Commune with your own heart and meditate upon your bed. There it is in Scripture, the very things we're talking about today. Again, I'm going to read that. Psalm 4:4. Be angry and yet sin not. Commune with your own heart and meditate upon your own bed. There are many ways to let go of anger. The thing is, first of all, you have to recognize it. How can I let go when I'm in a state of anger? First of all, you've got to realize you are not powerless. You have power over the anger. This is what makes anger powerful, is we think I'm helpless because what they did was wrong and I've got to do something about it. Well, if you're going to do something about it, you don't cure it with more anger. I'll never forget. I mean, that's what we think. How can I let go of anger? By finding the constructive way to handle it. I'll never forget, and this was here when I was in Atlanta, and this was in the early 70s when I was here with Dr. Barber in the church. And before I came to church, I was watching the Today Show, and they had a little boy who was 6 years old in the first grade. And they had him on the Today Show because they put him out of school and punished him for 2 or 3 days. Because you want to know what it was over? Sexual harassment. I don't know if you remember this or not. He's 6 years old. I mean, you know why? Because it was religious teachers in our schools. The little girl, in fact, the little boy didn't even know it. The little girl went up to him and kissed him on the cheek. he just accepted it, and that was it. And then he was put out of school for 2 or 3 days for sexual harassment. And when I saw, and there was that little boy, he was sitting in the chair, and in fact, he couldn't even pay attention to what people were talking about, his mother and the moderator that was working with him on the Today Show. And he was looking at the monitor, and he saw himself in the monitor. And he kept going. This is someone who has sexual harassment. Ooh. You know where that ooh comes from? People who have no understanding of humanity or God or truth, but have religious dogma and doctrine that dominates their thinking and makes them inhuman instead of human. And you know what that did when watching it? It made me angry. I got angry because of the way they accused that little boy and that little girl who just thought he was so cute she had to kiss him on the cheek. And I thought, the anger was so strong in me, I paced up and down in the floor and thought, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? Because I got so angry. And I'm so tired, and I still have to watch that in myself. I'm so tired of people using the Bible and Scripture as a hammer against people and against humanity and against other ways of thinking. It gets to me, and I thought, so I said to myself, so what are you going to do about it? Just stew? You know, just be angry? And I was teaching here, and I thought, no, I'm going to do research on human sexuality and the Bible. In other words, I turned the anger to become a motivator. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, this is another way of letting go of anger. How can I do this properly? And I began to search the Scriptures, and I went from Genesis, from Adam and Eve to Sodom and Gomorrah, all the way down through everything, and began to search it out. Something I would have never done because I always stayed away from human sexuality in the Bible. Because I knew it was a hot subject. So I stayed away from it. And I know people get all riled up over it. And I always stayed away. But when that little boy went through what he did, I thought, there's got to be a correct teaching on these Scriptures. In fact, not only on sexuality, we use Scriptures to cover our bigotry and prejudice and hatreds and other ways. We're using Scripture. So I took that anger and I began to do research work, study Scriptures, get more into the language and everything. And as a result, this church was the first blessing behind it, because what I did is next year I came back and did a workshop on God, human sexuality, and the Bible. Right. But it came from because I let go of the anger and did something constructive with it. So you can also do it by finding out what you can do to be constructive. And so I did the whole gamut of every facet of human sexuality and the Bible, because it's right there in the Scriptures. But I saw it from a new light and a new understanding when I actually went into it in detail. But had I not done that, it would have stayed the same, not changed at all. So one way is to let go. Another thing is, letting go is to do that in a constructive manner. If you can't do it in a constructive manner and you're angry just to be angry, you know who's going to get hurt. That's the bad thing about it. But when you're so angry and you know you're so right, remember, would you rather be right or be healed? You have to ask yourself that question. Would you rather be right or be healed? And that is is the question you have to ask yourself. Do you want to be healed of the anger? Or do you want to still go on with the anger? And I've known people to carry anger for years. Years. I don't know how they can do it. Carrying it for even several hours makes me sick at my stomach, even though I may be right. You know what I'm talking about. Even though I know I'm right, yet that anger is there, and it makes me sick. Makes me sick, and I have to let it go. So the second thing I have to realize is this. Is it worth keeping? Ask yourself that. Is it worth keeping? This emotion that's upsetting every cell in your body, that's raising your blood pressure, that's causing a jumble and a lot of static and turbulence in your body. Momentary irritation you can get rid of, but it's the thinking that keeps the anger going. It's the thinking that keeps the anger going. And when people tell me they are helpless, I said, that's not true. You don't know who you are and what you are. That's the next thing to realize is, who am I? Am I this helpless being that's subject to the emotion of anger? Subject to it. You understand? To have anger, it's not evil to feel anger. You got that? It's keeping the anger. It's nurturing it. It's letting it become more and more a part of you, that it becomes something that you wish you hadn't have done. In fact, Jesus put it this way. When he talked about thou shalt not kill or murder, when he gave that commandments in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, he went behind the scenes. What creates the murder? What creates it? It is anger. Anger that has built up resentment and hatred. In fact, anger and hatred feed each other. It's just one of the same, and it's like a funnel. I'm angry, therefore I hate. I hate, therefore I'm angry. And what I have to do is face it in myself. I'll never forget, once you really face your anger, face your resentment, face it. See, that don't run from it. Recognize it. Don't condemn yourself over it. I didn't. I think I've told you this story before. There was in my younger days in my ministry, when I was in my 20s, and this one minister kept bugging me and slashing me and cutting me and carrying until, at first I take it, you take it, then you can't take it anymore. A barb here, a barb there, a slice here, a slap there, verbally. There's nothing worse than when it comes verbally, right? Because what they say stays in you, and it's like a broken record or a groove that the needle won't get out of, right? And it goes ta-da, 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 ta-da. And with each ta-da, ta-da, the anger grows and grows and grows. Ta-da, ta-da. Then you justify yourself. Yes. And I was this way with this, and awful thing about it, it was another minister. Had it been a member of the congregation, well, or someone you just met and it just was, but it had to be another minister who ought to know better. Right? This sounds familiar? And the anger was building in me, and then I left and I went down to Mexico because we had mission works in Mexico from the church in San Antonio. And I went down to Mexico. And, of course, I always did my prayer work before I do all the work that I did in Spanish. And the anger was in me so strong, it was difficult for me to pray. So what I did is, when I got into the prayer and meditation, the first thing I said, Lord, you know I hate him. I mean, how can you lie to God? And you know I have this feeling in me. And as I was talking about the feeling and being honest with myself and honest with God and honest in the prayer and meditation and all that, all of a sudden, boom, something else came over me. Love came over me. And something else inside of me was saying, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to love. I want to continue to hate that son of a gun. Thank you. I know you felt the same thing I have. But I tell you, God and the inner true self was stronger than the outer man who was perishing. Perishing with the anger, perishing with all of that. The inner man was stronger, and it overwhelmed me. And I knew I was free. All of a sudden, I was free. And I could hardly wait to get back to Texas from Mexico. And I was in Linares, Mexico. And when I got back, and of course, met that minister, and the first thing he said to me is he had a barb for me. So I let it go. But then the worst thing was, all the ministers were in a special meeting in Reading, Pennsylvania. And we all were in one house, and we had one of the worst snowstorms ever. And I was stuck with him in the house. Now the real test was coming. But this is the acid test. And I'll never forget, I woke up in the morning and I knew I'd have to face him. And he had his shoes outside the door. You know what I did? I took his shoes and I polished them. And I was the first one up and I made the coffee. And he got up, he saw the shoes were polished, and I had to brought him his coffee, and he hugged me, and as he was hugging me, he whispered another barb in my ear. I thought, this is never going to end. But you know what I did? It was like water on a duck's back. Water on a duck's back. Oh, tell me more. Tell me more. That's exactly how I felt. It made no difference what he said. If fire came out of his mouth and burned my hair or whatever it would do, it made no difference, because the love and the power of God, the inner man, was stronger than the outer circumstances, words, things, anything that happened. It's stronger when you turn to it, when you bathe yourself in it, when you make it a part of you. Then it is stronger. And you have to come to that. And from that day on, though I may temporarily here and there oh, come on now. I want anyone who's totally free to stand up. Who you never, ever feel anger. Because I still get angry when I hear these certain people using Scripture to condemn us. That still gets to me, but I don't let it stay in me, which is the difference. I don't let it ride in me. I just find the scriptures that will say the opposite to what they're saying. I told you that one time when I was on the radio show, and this was in Dallas, Texas. And you know, there are a lot of Bible thumpers in Dallas, Texas. And I was on the born-again Jewish Christian hour. And I was presenting the Aramaic Bible and the teachings on it. And the people got so mad because they were calling in. They got so mad because every negative thing they would have about the Bible, I would have something positive because I know the scriptures. And then one person come in and said, the next thing is you're going to tell us, because they said the devil had just hatched me. The devil had just hatched me. And they called Dr. Lamza the Antichrist, the one who translated the Bible from Aramaic and English, and they called me the assistant to the Antichrist. These are loving Christians calling me in. But you know, I didn't get angry because I understand. This is what they're taught. This is what they're taught. They don't know. And said, then another person comes, next thing you're going to tell us is you don't sin. I said, you're right. I don't. Be angry, but sin not. Right? I said, I don't. Then someone else got in and says, we've got you now. I've got a scripture for you. He that says he doesn't sin is a liar. In 1 John. I said, that's okay. I said, in the 3rd chapter of 1 John, it says, he that is born of God doesn't sin. You can keep the 1st chapter. I'll take the 3rd chapter. You can find anything you want in the scripture to back up any hatred, bigotry, prejudice, anything you want. But you can also find in the scriptures that will show you your power, your understanding, your light, your peace, your joy, your power, what you need to overcome and let go of the anger. Anger isn't worth keeping. Your wholeness, your joy, your peace is greater and better and happier than any anger or anything you can do.